Nothing contained in this podcast should be considered a substitute for professional medical advice. This content does not represent our respective employers and is purely the opinion of the podcast hosts. We are not your personal medical providers. Sorry, friends. So, if you have any questions or concerns or seeking advice, diagnosis, and or treatment, please seek individual, personalized advice from a healthcare provider in your area. We are not liable for any risks or issues associated with using or acting upon the information contained in this podcast. This is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only, so enjoy the ride. Welcome to Medical Media Mixer, the perfect cocktail. I'm Nicole Peniston, psychologist.
And I'm Tara Prisco, physician assistant. All right, take two. We're doing a double recording today.
Back again.
Yep. What's that one?
Streets back.
I was like, there's a song. I knew it. There was a song. That dancing is definitely going on a clip.
I'm sure it will be, and that's okay. I did it. I have to take ownership for it. So
you can't undo it. So Nicole and I, before we're discussing how we are going to go to Comic-Con New York this year. It's my first time.
Yeah, it is my 15th time. So.
Nicole is going to show me the ropes. So
yes.
I'm very excited by that.
And Tara is going to take the leap and cosplay for her first year at Comic-Con, which that is very brave.
I have to just jump right in. You know, I figured you guys are doing it. Why not?
Yeah.
Go for it. I'm excited. It'll be fun.
It will be fun.
I have no idea what to expect. It's fine.
Expect a long day, a lot of walking, so make sure your shoes are comfortable. A lot of people watching, a lot of people asking to take your photo.
Nice.
And then we don't know who the guests are that day yet. They don't announce that for like a month or so, but maybe get to see some celebrities, maybe not. We'll see.
Cool. Exciting.
Yeah,
it'll be fun.
And then I find out next month if my panel got submitted.
Oh, so you buy tickets now, but you don't even know.
You don't know who's going to be there. You don't know what's going to happen, what day. It's chaos, but I've been doing this chaos for almost 15 years, like I said.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
The costuming reminds me of our old days of Halloween. Cosplay, yes. Okay, cosplay.
Get it right.
But we used to go into the city for Halloween and all dress on theme together and such, and go to cafe.
That one year I had that tragic injury.
I don't remember.
I don't know if you were there that year.
No, I might not have been there. I was not there the roller skating year.
It was the roller skating year. It was when we were a roller derby team, and yours truly fell and tore 5 muscles in her arm. And eventually, I didn't realize it then, fractured a vertebrae. So
okay. Yeah. Were you on roller skates?
Yes. I was roller skating down the street in Greenwich Village. We had just finished playing basketball on roller skates with people who were dressed up as a basketball team. And as I was skating, my wheel, these are like the 4-wheel roller skates, my back wheel got caught in a pothole. And I grabbed onto like one of those street blockades to catch myself, but I was going down too fast, and so I tore my muscles. Yeah.
I can roller skate still. I actually went to a birthday party about a year ago with one of my kids' friends, had a roller rink, and I can still roller skate, but I'd be afraid to do it on like streets.
There was a lot of alcohol involved, and I did not immediately go to the hospital, but we did by the end of that evening end up in the emergency room when my entire hand had swelled up to twice the size and was turning blue.
Did you wait till you got back home, or you did it in the city?
Yeah, we were in the city. I was with Crystal and with Patricia, and they were concerned. And I was like, no, I'm fine. Let's just go get a drink. They're like, you are not fine. So we did eventually leave, and then we went to a hospital in New Jersey. And then, yeah, so
we had some adventures. I was taking the train back in the morning because they don't run all night, so you have to stay up. And then we ran into one of our high school teachers on the train on the way home. Laura and I did. Our physics professor, who looked like Einstein, do you recall?
Yeah.
He was on the train in the morning, and we're still in costume. We're like, hey, Mr. LaRock.
Yes. Oh, Mr. Rocco. He was a sweet guy.
But it's just hysterical.
I went to Europe with him.
Oh, yeah, you did on the French trip or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was just really funny, like so random.
He was a cool guy. And I'm sure he definitely partook in the parade that evening and enjoyed himself.
Do you remember I also got a ticket for drinking a beer?
Yes, public drunkenness.
No, it wasn't that. It was just having an open container. That's it.
I mean, you were drunk, but
No, it was literally just I had a brown paper bag over a beer, and like all this mayhem is going on in the city, and I got a ticket, but I was able to, because they wanted you to appear.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not going in the city for this. My mother, who worked for a judge, called and be like, I'm calling from Judge so-and-so's quarters. Can we just pay the fine? And they let us do that.
Yeah. Wasn't that the evening we were walking down the street? I don't remember. Was that our Alice in Wonderland theme year?
Yes, I was Alice, and
yes.
we met Clark Kent.
Yes, I was going to say we were walking down the street. So I was the Mad Hatter. Crystal was the Queen of Hearts, right? Was Laura the rabbit?
She was there. I don't remember what she was.
Laura was a gold digger, wasn't she? Or was that a different year? She was a gold digger one year. But anyway, we're walking down the street and these people on this balcony are like, Alice in Wonderland, come up here. And so we got to go to some random people's Halloween party, and they were very nice.
Yes.
They were very welcoming, very nice. We felt very safe. It was just so random. And I guess that's the stuff that happens when you're young and reckless.
I know. And it's all the things I'm going to tell my children not to do. Do not go into strange people's apartments and do not walk around the streets of New York intoxicated.
In your defense, you did not go alone. You were among friends.
We had a gaggle of people who all looked out for each other. That's true.
We all looked out for each other. It wasn't always as smooth and easy as that, but we all looked out for each other.
Yeah, it was fun. It was definitely fun. I'm definitely not that interesting anymore.
Until this year at Comic-Con, because guess what? They serve alcohol at Comic-Con.
Do they really?
They do. They have bars.
Oh, wow. That sounds overwhelming.
It is going to be overwhelming. I need you to mentally prepare for several months. And I'm not just saying that. Literally on Saturday, there's probably going to be at least 20,000 people there. It's very crowded.
Okay with crowds. As long as we don't lose each other, I'm cool.
No, that's pretty... We have cell phones.
Yeah. And I'm not like the person who's going to be like, I need to see this. I'm just going to follow and be like, sure. Let's go wherever.
And honestly, 90% of what we do is like just walking around and people watching, like checking out other people's costumes, letting people check out our costumes. So a lot of it is just kind of like hanging out. Yeah.
Okay.
It'll be
exciting.
fun.
There will be pictures.
There will be.
And it is the weekend of my birthday as well. Because
it is. Yeah. Maybe we'll have to do something special at Comic-Con for your birthday.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Get your birthday cake or something.
Yeah. Exciting. So other than our exciting lives, what business do we have for today? We have
our business is kind of a downer after that conversation.
Oh, no.
But I'll get into it. So my drink, I'm going to tell you what the ingredients are before I tell you the name of it, because it's a little bit of a spoiler. I haven't been as creative with my drink name choices lately, but yeah. So this recipe was in parts, which was not helpful at all. So I decided, because I just had a drink prior and that it is a Wednesday night and I have to work tomorrow. I don't have off for Juneteenth.
No, my husband has off.
We have off Juneteenth, reserved. What is it? What do they call it? Observed. Juneteenth observed on Friday, but I work from home on Friday, so nothing changes for me.
Got it.
So this is broken down into parts. So my parts that I did, I made one part was a half ounce, 2 parts was a full ounce.
Got it.
So using that measurement, it should be a half ounce of Jägermeister. I did not have that. So I used Amaro, which is supposed to be a good flavor profile similar to it. 1 part or half ounce of triple sec, 1 ounce of vodka, 1 dash of Angostura bitters, and 1 part of cranberry juice. I think I used like 1.5 ounces of cranberry juice because it said, the recipe specifically says, where is it? Very potent. So I was like, okay.
There's lots of alcohol in that.
So you basically put all the ingredients in a cocktail shaker with ice, shake until chilled, straight into a glass, drink. It says very potent. So I added, like I said, more of the juice. It doesn't taste super potent, but I only took a sip.
But that's the dangerous stuff when it doesn't taste potent.
Exactly. And so the name of my drink is the near-death experience.
And
that's what we're talking about today, folks. Near-death experiences.
Okay.
So from your work in the medical field, ever encounter someone who says they've had a near-death experience?
I think a lot of people had medical trauma or things like that, but I don't know if anyone's ever explained anything as detailed like that I had, like that I see the light kind of a thing, life flash before me kind of thing. No one's personally told me that per se.
Yeah. And I think part of that too is there's a lot of negative feedback to people saying they've had NDEs, near-death experiences. So I think a lot of people don't talk about it for that reason. and probably not to medical providers because they figure they're just going to blow them off and be like, that didn't happen. That's not real. So I started off watching the show called Surviving Death, which is a docuseries in 6 parts. Not all of the parts talk about near-death experiences, but they all talk about something related to death and the supernatural, essentially, or like fringe beliefs about death. Okay. So the first episode is about specifically near-death experiences. And this is on Netflix, and it came out in January 2021. And this is yet another documentary that I watched twice all the way through without realizing it. I will say the first time I definitely didn't pay attention to more than the first episode, but like rewatching it, I was like, okay, I've seen this episode, but then I watched the whole thing and I was like, no, I missed a lot of these parts. So there's a lot to unpack in those 6 episodes. It's very dense and there's a lot of stuff, and they do a really good job of discussing people's experiences, their emotional ties, the spirituality of it, and then also just the science of it all. So it's a pretty cool watch if that's something that you're interested in. So, as I said, it came out January 2021. The first episode is called Near-Death Experiences. And so it follows 3 people, I believe. The Wikipedia page doesn't break down into the episodes, so I'm really just going off of memory. But one of the people that it follows is this woman who was a doctor. I want to say she was a cardiologist. She was some sort of doctor who patients would often die, but she had never really thought much about near-death experiences or anything like that. And so she was on a whitewater rafting trip, and I believe it was some sort of whitewater, rapids boating, and she got trapped underwater for, hold on to your panties, 5 minutes.
Oh,
yes, she was trapped underwater for a very long time before they were able to retrieve her. They got her out. She was blue. She was unresponsive. They're like, she's dead. Like, she's gone. And she woke up and she survived.
We know our friends prior to their marriage, that happened to her.
Very similar experience. Not quite as long underwater, I believe, but still definitely traumatic and upsetting.
He had to be he had to be cooled and everything.
Yeah. And some things
he was CPR and brought back and all that. And I think that's what prompted them, like, hey, let's get married. Like, life is short.
Yeah. And they're still together and they have a baby and they just got a brand new dog.
Yes. I can't wait to meet their dog.
Yes. And they're our biggest fans because both Laura and her hubby have emailed the show. So we love you guys. And we're talking about you.
She said she feels like she said she feels like she's hanging out with us because she hears us.
Oh, I miss you, Lou. So this particular woman, she has this experience, and on top of just that, the drowning, the being underwater, the being clinically dead, essentially, she had severe injuries. She had like crushed one of her legs, lots and lots of injuries associated with this. And this trip, I don't remember what country. I'm sorry. I'm really bad at that. I usually take a lot of detailed notes. And then these, I was just like, no, just talk about the general stuff. Mm-hmm. But she was somewhere where once they did retrieve her out of the water, it was quite a long journey to get to a hospital, to get medical help. And so it wasn't like, she drowned, they immediately airlifted her somewhere. She got that help right away. It was quite a long process for her to recover. But she almost immediately began talking about this near-death experience where she saw herself being trapped underwater, and she saw and like just instinctively knew, like, I'm not going to survive this. Like, I'm dead. This is it. Wow. This is what's happening. And that's kind of the extent of her near-death experience. But she does say later on, because there's a lot of interviews with her about details and her recovery and how, as a doctor, how she feels about NDEs. But at one point later on in the show, I don't even think it's the first episode, I think it might be a later episode, she talks about how during her near-death experience, or shortly thereafter, I think it was when she was kind of coming out of it, she had essentially this premonition that her son was going to die. And then fast forward, I think it's something like 15, 16 years, her son does die tragically, exactly the way that she pictured it in her near-death experience. And so talking about how near-death experiences open up people's consciousness to other things, like connecting with people of past, having prophetic images, or having a better understanding of spirituality in the world. So it's not just, I saw myself lying on the table and people trying to resuscitate me. It's much more than that. There's more to these near-death experiences than that. And they do talk with several other people in that first episode about their NDEs, but she's really one of the ones who has the most detailed and specific incidents involved in that. As far as prophetic images or thoughts about that. They talk about another woman. I think she's in, let me see, what episode is she in? I think she's in episode 4. So this is Signs from the Dead. That one's what that one is entitled. She is either that one or the very last episode, which is called Reincarnation. She is pregnant and she's having a somewhat difficult pregnancy, but they can't necessarily identify, like, it's not preeclampsia, it's not this, it's not that. It's just, okay, you're just having a rough time with your pregnancy. And she has these images that she's going to die in labor. And then she literally almost dies in labor. And so it's like kind of finding out how we can get medical professionals to connect to what these people are saying and take them seriously, but still balancing, like, hey, sometimes people say crazy things or believe things that we don't necessarily believe in, or and trying to suss out what is real and what is not. So to start off, we should talk about what a near-death experience is. So you kind of already talked a little bit about it. What do you think a near-death experience is?
Yeah, I think it's that either the things you hear about, I guess, go into the light, life flashes before me, or that out of body, seeing yourself like from above. That's kind of what I think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess the question, and I'm sure you'll get into this, is there any scientific proof that this is your brain just firing in a very specific way versus, like you said, a more spiritual thing? But it's kind of like how people say that deja vu is your brain glitching, sort of. Like, is this just a brain glitch? So I guess we'll get into that, but that's where my mind is going.
Yeah, and I think that's really what most people colloquially have heard about NDEs, what happens during them. So there's actually 15 characteristics of an NDE that I'll get into.
That's like a big definition there.
Yes,
okay.
There's been a lot of study on this and a lot of similarities across people, across cultures, across experiences. And so there is this feeling that there's something scientific to it. We just haven't quite figured out all of it as of yet.
Random offshoot. Do you remember the movie Flatliners?
Yes.
Isn't that what they were trying to induce, essentially?
They were trying to induce, I think it was more, the point of it was they were trying to die and then bring someone back. Yeah. It was seeing how far into death someone could be before they could be brought back.
Yeah, but
so a little bit more complicated.
Yeah, it's a very long time ago.
They remade that movie recently. I'd say in the last 10 years they remade it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that was like a big like horror flick when we were in high school.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that be on like late night randomly on TV when you're flipping the channels. Like I don't think I ever intended on watching it. It's one of those you just kind of randomly found.
Yeah, I think it's like one of those cult classics where like it wasn't a big popular movie, but like some people were super into it.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's talk about the history of NDEs. So it started back in the 1890s with a French psychologist and now I feel like I'm Tara. He's a French psychologist and he does some other stuff. And he coined the French term expérience de mort imminente.
Okay.
No, imminente, that sounded way too Spanish, but you know what I'm saying.
Imminent.
So basically the experience of imminent death.
Okay.
And that was a result of discussions with philosophers and other psychologists regarding climbers' experiences of having this kind of full view of their life when they were falling from a certain height. So this was specific to that population. People who were mountain climbers would fall and then survive the fall. And then they would talk about having this experience during the course of their fall.
I could feel my heart dropping.
Yeah.
Thinking about that.
And then, so that was in the 1890s. It doesn't say the exact date. And then in 1892, there was a series of subjective observations by workers falling from scaffolds, soldiers who suffered injuries, climbers who had fallen from heights, and other individuals who had come close to death, such as drownings, accidents, by Albert Heim. And so that's the first time the phenomenon was described as a clinical syndrome, saying that this is an actual medical experience that people are having. So that's 1892. So that this has been around for a while. And then for some reason, there's some giant gap in the history of NDEs. And it's not until 1968 that Celia Green published an analysis of 400 firsthand accounts of out-of-body experiences in an attempt to provide a taxonomy of such experiences, like hallucinations, perceptual experiences, things like that. So even though that's not exactly NDEs, it's still that same experience of I'm watching something happen to myself, knowing that is me, and I'm watching it from outside of myself.
Right.
Which that's a separate thing.
Out of bodies.
Clinically, we can call that depersonalization or derealization, which can be a symptom in certain psychiatric disorders, but it does happen in near-death experiences as well. And then in 1969, Swiss-American psychiatrist and pioneer in near-death studies, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, Do you know
Oh,
her
I
name
know
for
that
some
name.
reason?
Yes, I do.
Why
I
do you
don't
know her
know.
name?
I don't know, but I know her name.
She coined the stages of grief.
Ah,
Yes. So she's
gotcha.
done a lot of research on death, near-death
Death. Yeah.
experiences, all of that stuff. And so she wrote a book called On Death and Dying, What the Dying Have to Teach Doctors, Clergy, and their own families. And
Yes.
that's like a big book in the field about how to deal with end-of-life terms for people.
Yes.
But the specific term near-death experience wasn't coined until 1972 by John Lilly, and then it was popularized in 1975 by Raymond Moody, who's a psychiatrist, who was using it as an umbrella term for out-of-body experiences. So this is also seeing the light, going down the tunnel, crossing the border, all of those kind of colloquial terms that people have used for it. He was now defining it as this one larger thing. So Moody did a lot of research on close to death or death experiences. So some people actually clinically died. So that's not a near-death experience. That's a death experience, and then you've recovered. So that is there's some different semantics in it. But he found that there are 15 commonalities in every near-death experience.
Wow.
So 9 of the 15 elements pertain to the experience itself. So in the experience itself, someone finds it challenging to express the experience in their own words to others. But they learn either from people who were there or doctors that they did clinically die. And they described that the pain that they had is in that situation is replaced by pleasant sensations or feelings of peace, calmness. They hear a noise or unearthly music that's usually calming, pleasant, traveling through a dark tunnel, finding oneself outside of their body, meeting other people who have already passed, or meeting with a being made of light, getting a panoramic view of one's life. So like you said, kind of going through all of these experiences in your life all at once, kind of seeing it all together. Arriving at a boundary, a frontier, or a point of no return where it's like you got to make a choice. You go forward or you go back.
Wow.
And then because all of these people have survived, returning to one's body and their earthly life and having that understanding that they weren't there and they had the choice not to be there, or they had the opportunity not to be there. Because that thing about choice comes up in the documentary several times about people feeling like they didn't have a choice, that they wanted to stay with their loved ones who have passed, or they wanted to see what was beyond that border, and something either pulled them back or someone told them, now's not your time, you have to go back. So then the other 4 areas, because that was 11, is that these happen after the experience, trying to share that experience with someone else, trying to justify it, explain it to someone, how it impacts their whole life thereafter. A lot of these people have huge life changes in career, in spirituality, and understanding. Changing their view on death. So most people who have had these NDEs are now no longer afraid of death or worried about it. And sometimes people almost yearn for it, not in a suicidal way, like I want to end it, but just like when my time comes, it's going to be like what I want, what I need. And then a corroboration of the experience. So looking for other people who have had the same experience and can validate it. And then, so not every NDE has all of those steps, but that's kind of a commonality. If we're looking at, all of these people have had it, those same descriptions are very similar. And then, so in 1980, Kenneth Ring subdivided NDE into a continuum using those same elements. And so he said that it basically is broken down into these 5 areas. Someone is at peace, they have a separation from their body, they enter darkness, they see light, and then they enter another realm through that light. And then the final stage is them returning back to their body. So there's some commonalities among near-death experiences, even though researchers vary on how they define it. When people are talking about, yes, I've had one, these are the things they say. So 22% of people have had an NDE. It was during general anesthesia.
Oh.
And let's see. So I'm just going to read like some of like the interesting talking points about it. 50% of the people have an awareness that they've already died. When they're having this experience. 56% of people have that feeling of peace, well-being, painlessness, bliss, euphoria, other positive emotions, and get an intense sense of unconditional love and acceptance and a removal from the world. 24% of people have an out-of-body experience during that, so they're observing medical professionals trying to resuscitate them or seeing, their body trapped somewhere. 31% of those people have that tunnel experience of moving up or through a passageway or a staircase. rapid or feeling rapid movement toward or sudden immersion in light, like seeing beings dressed in white, seeing beings made of light who can communicate telepathically.
Right.
So I think that's really interesting because a lot of these people are saying, oh, I saw my dad who passed, 25 years ago, or I saw my great grandmother who I only met once when I was 5. Like seeing these people, and they say they're having these conversations with these people, but their mouths aren't moving. It's just an understanding, a feeling, a sense of what this person is communicating to them.
This makes me think that people who've experienced this and then explained it is maybe just going back culturally to the beginning of humans is how sort of we got our description of the afterlife, right? People coming back saying, this is what I saw. That's the same kind of framework. The light, the people, everyone you know, that seems to be where we would have gathered that information, I guess.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point too, that culturally everybody comes from a different culture or different society that may have certain beliefs and ideas passed down about this, but these are things that have been international. So this is crossing cultures, transcending, and it's more of a human experience. Maybe people are describing it in different words or different cultural terms, but they're all describing the same thing. And I find that fascinating because then it makes me wonder one of two things. Is it just the way the body responds to these traumatic issues? Or is this something truly real that all of us will experience at some point, but some people get that opportunity to share that with us?
Right.
Is that what death actually is like?
Right.
Yeah.
Now, this is a funny offshoot. Alien abduction experience kind of has a lot of the same features.
And that is a whole nother episode, girl.
I was hoping that we'd get to something like that. Yeah.
And I will say one thing that struck me, because I was thinking that when I was watching this documentary both times, was that with every one of these NDEs, it is an overwhelming experience of peace, of calmness, of acceptance. And you don't necessarily get that from these alien abductions.
True. Usually there's some sort of fear in there,
fear,
probing
trauma,
my organs.
Terror, violation, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of similarities. You're right.
Yeah.
So then there's a lot more research on NDEs. I'm just kind of covering, like, now in 2022, they've identified 51 aspects of it. I'm not going to go through all 51.
Wow.
But then there's been a lot of research looking into it. So there is a person named Bruce Grayson who's done a lot of research on the characteristics and experiences of NDEs, and he developed a rating scale, the Roche rating scale model, which is basically rating these symptoms, these experiences, based on a scale to say, how deep the NDE is, or how subtle or how profound. So on this, 16 multiple choice questions, I'm assuming it's a Likert scale, so 0 to 4 or 0 to 3 for each one, since it's multiple choice. They said that a score of 7 or below is considered a subtle NDE, score of 7 to 21 is a deep NDE, and a score of 22 or above is a profound NDE. And I'm just scanning this, but I'm also wondering if that level is associated with the type of trauma that took someone to a near-death experience.
Right. How significant it is. Yeah.
Yeah. And how traumatic it is. If it's,
right.
Somebody who just has a heart attack and is resuscitated versus someone who is severely beaten and having,
right.
I wonder if that's taken into account in some of it. And that might just muddy the waters. Maybe they're just looking at the experience itself because there are so many different ways. But as far as managing someone, so here's a treatment perspective. So when you're dealing with someone who is expressing an NDE, the correct approach is to ask, listen, validate, educate, and refer. So you want to ask them about their experience. If they want to, obviously they're coming to you and telling you they have it. So ask about their experience, listen to what they're saying, validate that this is an experience that they've had, whether you believe it or not, just saying, like, this is, yes, I hear what you're telling me, that you went through this. Educate them on NDEs. So that can be some of this stuff that I've talked about, and then referring them to a specialist who they can talk to. There's lots of research institutes out there that are helping counsel people who have had NDEs. And then also, if you're working with the right therapist, that's something they can work with you through as well, because even though this sounds like a really nice, peaceful experience, I imagine it would be traumatic to be pulled away from that nice, peaceful experience.
Right. I was going into, the warmth, the calm,
I was ready to go. And
back in reality where everything sucks and I'm injured from whatever happened.
Exactly. And that's something that I'm really curious about is like, what are these people recovery like? Is it a better recovery or a worse recovery having had that NDE?
Right.
Because most of those people have serious medical issues after that. So there was some research with a psychiatrist, a psychologist, and a cardiologist, interestingly, about near-death studies. From 1975 to 2005, they studied 2,500 self-reported NDEs in a retrospective study. Obviously, we can't study it before because we don't know who's going to have it. But it included 600 people in the U.S., 70 in Asia. So they were definitely looking at some of those other cultural factors as well. The Wikipedia page for near-death experiences is a doozy. There's a lot of stuff on there. And there's a lot of good actual research stuff. So that's interesting. But one thing I wanted to get to that I found really interesting, there is an international association for near-death studies. And they do research on that every day. They've been doing this for years. And that is really the crux of what they do is to study this type of experience, but is part of the Division of Perceptual Studies at the University of Virginia, I believe it is. It's a college in Virginia. Yes, University of Virginia School of Medicine. They have their own department of perceptual studies, which looks at near-death images, children who report memories of past lives, which is really cool.
That's another thing you need to cover. Creepy kids.
There's a whole lot of stuff about. There's actually one of the other episodes of this talks a lot about that, about young children reporting past lives and with accuracy, with stunning accuracy. And then they also look at, sorry, I clicked and lost my tab. Here we go. Altered states of consciousness. So that's a whole different psychological thing I can talk about. Altered states of consciousness. It's not just when you're high. There's other ways you can have altered states of consciousness. So this area at the University of Virginia, they do a lot of study, and they've been in action for quite some time. And they're really like the leaders in the field. They've had a lot of research studies out there. They're doing a lot of really good, legitimate scientific work in this field. So it's pretty interesting because for so long, I think a lot of people debunked it. And so now they're actually looking into it and saying, what is this all about? There's also the IANDS.org. I wish I could tell you what the IANDS stands for, but they do specifically study near-death experiences. And so it's both research, but also they have communities for people to go and to meet other people who have had NDEs, to do research, to educate others, to support the cause, to continue it. They have conferences every year. So the link to that will be in the show notes, but they are really doing amazing research as well. And actually, I was just going to tell you before when you were talking about other podcasts, I did find a podcast that I would really love to collaborate with. Okay. But it is by the amazing Mayim Bialik, actress.
Oh, yes.
Awesome. She has a great podcast, and she actually interviewed someone from the INDS only 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay. I've listened to hers back a while ago, and then I put it back in my library to go and listen to a few episodes. She does a lot.
Her podcast, if anyone is interested, is called Mayim Bialik's Breakdown, MBB. And they talk about all things psychological, neurological, spiritual, a lot of really cool topics. I was just listening to one of their more recent episodes about psychics working for the government. So they do talk about a lot of really cool stuff, but that's a really great podcast.
What we need to do is get popular enough for her to care. And then we need to cover an episode of Blossom and Big Bang Theory. And boom, reason to have her on. Done.
I mean, in my mind, Mayim already cares because she is a true hero and she already cares for us and supports us and loves us. She just doesn't know us yet.
I don't know what I was watching, and whatever it was, it suggested the next thing in the queue to watch Blossom. So I did go back and watch some early episodes.
And for anyone living under a rock, or maybe not living under a rock, because I feel like we grew up with her, so we did definitely follow her throughout her career. But she actually is a trained neurologist. She has a PhD, so she's not just an actress.
She has a neuroscience PhD. I mean, she's actually a scientist. She took time off of acting, did that, raised her kids, and then came back.
She's done research, and she's out there doing the real work, and it just happens to be a famous actress on the side.
Right. And Amy Fowler is one of my favorite characters. I love her to death.
I mean, in my head, Amy is just who Blossom would have been if she stopped being cool.
Yeah.
Same character, though. Same person.
Yeah. See, because we know that Sheldon definitely has autism, so we could totally do that as an episode. And I'm sure there's some other medical stuff.
I have so many autism things that I could do. So maybe I'll talk about something else about
I know. Big Bang. I'm sure I can find something.
On the episode. Yeah, but there's lots of good stuff. Yeah. So she has recently, I believe it was the June 12th, so last week's episode, she interviewed somebody from the INDS regarding their research about NDEs. And that is through Bruce Grayson, who I just mentioned before, the guy who made that scale. He's the founder of the IANDS, and he still works there and does all that good research. They have a lot of fact sheets on their website. One thing that I think is really cool that they put on here is they kind of have like a facts, like answering like most common questions about it. And one of them that I think a lot of people assume, an NDE is not a hallucination. They are very different. And like as I was saying before, hallucinations or those alien abduction experiences tend to be very distressing. They feel unreal. They feel meaningless. They feel kind of floating out into nowhere and questioning it, where NDEs tend to be really profoundly moving and peaceful and add growth and quality to people's lives. So that's a big difference. And I feel like that must mean something. That must mean that it's something different and separate and healing, essentially.
Right.
And like I was saying before, the effects people can feel transformed psychologically, spiritually, physically, and socially. So there's been people who maybe didn't live the healthiest or best lives before their NDE, and then afterwards they have positive changes in their sleep, their appetite, they have increased sensitivity to medication and environmental factors, such as pollution and electrical fields. So I don't know if you've ever heard about or want eventually in a future episode to talk about these phenomenon that people are having, that they're allergic to electromagnetic fields.
Yes.
That would be really interesting.
I need to put that on a list because there's definitely a lot out there.
There's a whole documentary about that I could share with you.
Yes.
So that is that. And then a lot of this stuff repeats, but I added a lot of show links because there's a lot of really cool research and sites out there. A different thing, a shared death experience. So this is when someone dies and a living loved one reports that they have sensed, observed, accompanied, or assisted the dying person in their transition. So they've been there with them and they kind of helped usher them to the other side and live to tell the tale. I haven't heard as much about that, but it is on this IANDS website. So that's pretty cool. Something else to look into.
See, I was imagining it somewhere like you were both in that accident, right, and then you wake up and you both had the similar experience.
Yeah, it's a totally different phenomena.
See, my brain wants to like throw some EEG leads on these people and I don't want to induce death, but like study it, like, you know what I mean? But there's just no way to capture this because obviously you don't know when something's happening.
Right. And then just the ethics of it. Do we want to
Well, obviously I'm not going to
research it?
Like, no. I mean,
if they're volunteering, like that's not something ethically.
Well, Flatliners, the movie. Yeah. Let's go back there. No, obviously
it doesn't have a good ending. So
yeah, obviously not. But it's something you just can't grasp. The mind is something in these experiences you just can't like put your hands on it.
I think too, maybe it's something a lot of people don't want to put their hands on because like there's lots of things that people don't like to talk about, taxes, religion, death. Those are things that people kind of avoid. And I think it's because having to face our own mortality and understand that we're going to die someday. And what does that mean for us? Is it going to be painful? Is it going to be scary? And so I think that's why so many people can't talk about their NDEs, because just this negative feeling about death that a lot of people have and coming to terms with it. But there's some other cool things that they're studying at the IANDS. One is terminal lucidity. So, and I've heard about this before in people who are end of life, in hospice or things like that, where it's an end of life experience where you have this sudden return of mental clarity right before death. And you just understand things and you let go of all the stressors, and maybe you even gain new talents and can do things where you weren't able to do that a day or a month or something ago. So they study that. They also look at past life memories. Like I said, maybe I can do another episode on that. After death communication. So that's getting messages from people who have passed on. Typically that is related to someone who's had an NDE and then now that's opened up this ability for them. And then deathbed visions, which that's when someone is going to die or is in the process of dying, where they start seeing people who've passed before who are welcoming them to come over. So there's a lot of really cool research out there going on. And, for a long time, this all falls under the realm of parapsychology. And for a very long time, it was considered a pseudoscience. But I think there's a lot of people like University of Virginia, the IANDS, that are trying to get rid of that pseudo part of it and say, like, this is a scientific study. We don't necessarily know the answers to everything, but I look at it this way. We don't know every single thing about how the human brain works, but we don't call neurology a pseudoscience.
Right. True.
We don't call psychology a pseudoscience, but it was for a while. It was considered a pseudoscience. So, maybe we can change the discussion around those things. So that's all I got for you as far as near-death experiences.
Interesting. So have you ever met a person or a patient who has said they had one?
I have. I had a patient actually not that long ago. I want to say maybe 2 or 3 months ago. And it was really funny because during my intake, I do a full biopsychosocial. So I ask all about health issues, injuries, accidents, things like that. And I had somebody just random say like, oh yeah, I had an NDE. And I was just like, you had a near-death experience. He's like, oh, you know what NDE means? And I'm just like, oh, yeah, it's not rocket science, but yeah. And then he didn't want to talk about it. So I didn't push, and it was not relevant to what we were doing. But I was just like, wow, I really want to know more about it.
Yeah.
But this person did have, what I do know is that they had been under anesthesia, having surgery, and there was an accident during the surgery, and they started bleeding out, and they essentially died on the table, and then got dressed and had a blood transfusion, and was revived. And this was a very basic surgery. I feel like it was like a shoulder surgery or something very minimal that it should not have happened. And they actually had 2 NDEs, which in a short time frame. And when I was looking at some of that research, it says that that's actually common too. So, and I think it depends on like the trauma that someone's gone under, but essentially this particular person, then they were in recovery and they had been given some medication that they had a really negative reaction to, and their heart stopped and they had to be revived, and it was a whole thing. So I can imagine if someone's really in a serious state of physical trauma, how you might have more than one NDE if you're not getting the appropriate care right away.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a little freaky.
Yeah. And then there was something else that came up. I think it was in the first episode of that documentary about how once someone has an NDE, for some reason, they seem to be prone to have them in the future. So I don't know if it's like you've opened up that door, so now it's easier to cross. Yeah, I know. Like, do you die a lot? But I think it's just more, I think the idea was more of like, once you've crossed that barrier, now you're more open to things from the other side, whatever that means. And so you may have more of these unusual experiences after that.
Okay. I think this is like a subject area that maybe we could explore more, sort of what you would say the parapsychology end of things, because
there's a lot in parapsychology.
Yeah.
Ghosts is in parapsychology.
Right.
Psychics,
ghosts, psychics, mediums, aliens, all the stuff.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot to talk about, and there's tons and tons of media out there on all that stuff. So there's actually a really good documentary I'm thinking of covering about, I believe, I don't want to misquote, I feel like it is one of the most well-documented alien abductions. It happened in Manhattan, in the middle of the city.
Okay.
Yeah, craziness. In the 70s. So
all these things happened in the 70s. I feel like that was a big time.
Everybody was high and everybody was connected.
Yeah, everyone's on drugs.
Well, now that this stuff is becoming more legal and acceptable, maybe we'll all have all these fun experiences now. Who knows?
Oh my goodness.
But yes, all right. I will put some of that stuff on the list for future episodes. I do have another psychedelic episode planned, but it's quite a ways out. I didn't want to do too many back to back after the frog licking.
The frog licking. Always fun with frog licking. Yeah, we have...
No licking frogs. Did you learn nothing from that episode?
Well, I mean, if it's the right frog and the right dose.
No, you should not be licking any frogs. Leave those poor frogs alone. They are fine.
I am not. I used to catch frogs when I was a kid, but I never licked them. No,
I
did not.
So keep it that way.
I would keep them in a box, and then they would look lethargic, and I'd be like, "We'll go back out. I'm sorry." Like a shoebox. A shoebox with water and grass and bugs.
That is not their natural habitat.
Close enough. I was experimenting as a child. Did I tell you about the microscope kit I used to have as a kid? It was like Fisher Price microscope and like the little plastic slides.
I think I had that too.
And I used to catch the ants, and then you'd have to smush them on the slide.
So what I'm hearing is that you have a history of animal abuse.
No. Only thing I killed was ants. I don't even kill spiders. I save them and I take them outside back at where they belong. So I do not kill animals. Just ants when I was a kid because I was curious to look at them under the microscope.
I feel like that's worse.
Scientific brain, okay? I was learning.
Okay, if you say so.
They didn't have the pre-made slides. Now my kids got one, when they were little. They had the pre-made little, slides. Mm-hmm. So
whatever you say.
All right. So listen to all of the episodes in our catalog. Don't just listen to this one. Follow us on our
don't
socials.
Just listen to the cannibalism one.
Definitely listen to the cannibalism one and interact on TikTok. Maybe we'll finally go viral and people will know who we are. So go comment on that one and comment on the same post on Instagram. I put a poll, but nobody answered the poll. Would you or would you not try?
I don't think people like polls. You've tried polls at least 3 times and we're not getting any responses.
I don't know. But listen to us, follow us on our socials. TikTok, Instagram is where we're and Facebook, we're the most active. I find that YouTube, nobody watches, so I'm not consistently posting on there as often because it's like low feedback.
Okay.
And tell a friend and email us.
medicalmediamixer@gmail.com.
You got it. Nicole's waiting.
I'm waiting.
With bated breath. Although we've had some emails, business-related emails.
We're getting there.
All right.
And we finally made 1,000 downloads.
We did. We had like a big jump all of a sudden. It was just less than 6 months to get that. Nicole's doing the victory dance over there. So now we need to just get to 1,000 a month instead of 1,000 in 5.5 months.
Look, it's a work in progress. We're all a work in progress.
That I know. Wait, we're all, what did you say our t-shirt should say? The perfect cocktail. We're all, you see, I did an episode. We're all aspiring to be the perfect cocktail, something like that. It was good. We have to go back and listen. Somebody email us. What did we say on that episode? That should be a quote for our shirt.
Thank goodness we recorded it. I barely know what I said 5 minutes ago.
So thank you for listening to Medical Media Mixer.
The perfect cocktail. Cheers.
Cheers.